Welcome to the Hair of the Dog podcast. I'm Nicole Begley, and today we have Heather Lahtinen back again. Yes, again. I know you guys love her though, and her and I are having a conversation talking about when it's appropriate to start charging in your pet photography business. So, if you have been photographing for 1 week or 3 years or even longer, it doesn't matter. If you have been wondering when the right time to start charging is, well, we're going to give you some answers. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the Hair of the Dog podcast. If you're a pet photographer ready to make more money and start living a life by your design, you've come to the right place. And now, your host, pet photographer, travel addict, chocolate martini connoisseur, Nicole Begley.
Hey everybody, Nicole here from Hair of the Dog, and welcome back to the Hair of the Dog podcast, where we have the one, the only, Heather Lahtinen joining us again. Today, we are talking about how the heck do you know when you're ready to start charging in your photography business? Welcome back, Heather.
Thank you, Nicole. I love this topic, but what's funny is whenever you approach me and you say, hey, would you like to do a podcast on? It literally does not matter to me what you say next. The answer is yes. Because I love being here. I love talking with you. I love serving your audience. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And when you say that, my head starts to go to what kind of obscure topics can we possibly
Right?
do on the podcast? We've already talked extensively about our underwear in both of our first two money
That's great.
series.
We're getting a lot of comments about that. If you guys haven't listened to those episodes, you should definitely go back and check them out. It's hilarious.
Yes, episode 95 and is the first one, and then episode number 101.
Okay.
Those are our first two of a 6-part money mindset series that we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the year. So definitely go check them out. But today we're talking about getting our businesses up off the ground, because I'll tell you what I see, Heather, and let me know if you see it in your groups as well with your people. I see a lot of people that are producing really beautiful work that think they're not ready to take money or go in business.
Oh my goodness, yes. And it's actually a little bit frustrating, really frustrating, because they're more than ready. They just don't think that they are. And sometimes they'll say to me, Heather, I'm not ready to charge. To which I respond, how will you know when you are ready? And then I get a variety of responses back. It's usually a list of some sort of obscure, because the truth is they'll never know. You'll never feel totally ready. So they'll say things like, I don't know, when I'm more confident. Okay, how will you know when you're more confident? When I can take photos that are always sharp, 100% sharp photos.
I better stop then.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, oh, wow, then I'm in trouble, because that's never going to happen. Nor are you ever going to be perfectly content or 100% confident in what you're producing. It's more of what you believe about what you're capable of rather than your actual skill set.
Absolutely. And I know that, I tell people this all the time, that almost every session, I think probably even every session, I come home and I download my images, and there's always something like, oh, how did I not catch that? Or, oh, I wish I would have done that. Or, oh, I forgot to do this. So I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I still have regularly those moments of wanting to improve, of feeling like I could have done a little bit better. So I think that's just par for the course.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's going to go on forever. That's never going to go away. I'm almost 20 years, 2 decades into my business, and I still occasionally walk out of a church where I'm photographing at, say, ISO 2000 and take photos outside at ISO 2000 because I forget. Right. Or I take photos that aren't sharp or in focus, or I forget to change something and I think, how did I miss that? Well, because I'm a human. Right. And so is everyone listening, I would assume. And if that's the case, you're never going to reach this mythical perfection of totally confident, you feel great about it, because you're always going to make mistakes. Can you be okay with that? Can you charge and be okay with the fact that you might make some mistakes, and some of these mistakes might be pretty big? Could you be okay with that?
Right. Right. Well, and here's the thing too that takes a little bit of pressure off, I think. As a wedding photographer, dude, those mistakes have some serious ramifications.
Yes,
As
ma'am.
a dog portrait photographer, I mean,
Right.
worst case scenario, we can easily reshoot that. You can't really call the bride and be like, "Hey, Susie,
Yeah. I
so we need
screwed
to
up.
reshoot your wedding."
Yeah. And I actually, I teach a lot of different types of photographers, and I say to them, if you are anything other than a wedding or event photographer, I'm so sorry. I cannot feel badly for you if you're stressing out over this, because you could reshoot. I can't. I do not have that option, nor do I have control over anything, the day, the time, the light, the crazy church lady, nothing. I'm totally out of control. I can't pick locations. You guys can shoot when you want, where you want. You could reshoot. It's a couple of hours. Come on. If you, so what if you screw it? What I'm saying is, so what? If you make a mistake, which you're bound to do you have to reshoot a session? Okay. So does that hurt your pride? Maybe that's a problem. You have to make a phone call that says, oh, I kind of messed something up and I'd really like to reshoot this because it's not up to my standards. Well, okay. Is anybody going to die in that scenario?
Well, and even before we do that, though, because I think I see a lot of people that feel like they need to call and offer a reshoot, when in actuality, the photos are just fine. They're just
Right.
maybe not as great as you had hoped, but the client is still going to absolutely love them.
Yes. We had someone in Elevate I was talking to last week about this, and she wanted to immediately make a phone call. And I said, hold on, stop. What I want you to do is edit the photos. I want you to go through the photos and do you have enough that are up to your standards? Because you might, and you just don't realize it.
Right.
And once you edit, after you look at that number and you look at then you make a decision. Do I need to make a phone call? And in that phone call, you don't need to say that you screwed up or you made a mistake. You could simply say, these photos are not up to my standards, and I would love to offer you a reshoot. That's it. And I would assume the client would appreciate that.
I would have an even better way to say that instead of saying like, oh, these photos all suck, because essentially kind of what you're starting to say with like, they're not up to my standards. Instead, what if you called them and said something like, I just went through our gallery and I love what we have, but there's not the variety, or I'd love to give you a little bit more variety into your session. Can we meet again and just add a little bit more?
Oh, that's great.
Before you even do that, just
Right.
to reframe, before you even do that, ask yourself, what is the client wanting to do with these images anyway? If they're contacting you because they want to do one wall piece, you don't need to show them 47 images. Like if you have 10 decent images, you're good to go.
That's right.
I think a lot of photographers fall into this trap of overshooting, oversharing, and then our clients have a really hard time trying to figure out what the heck to do with 82 photos.
That's actually a really good point. Have you ever considered that you are possibly overwhelming your client with all of those photos anyway? And maybe this bad shoot that, somebody has classified as being a failure was a good thing because you discovered that you only needed to deliver 10 to 15 good images. The client picked one and then you're done. Maybe there's a good lesson in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have found my sweet spot for sessions is usually about 30 to 40 images unless it's somebody that's contacting me about really wanting to do just one piece. For a normal session that wants some digital files, wants a wall piece, plus or minus an album, I find 30 to 40 images is like my perfect sweet spot for having enough variety to share with them, but without totally overwhelming them or sharing them with 5 images that look exactly the same. Because here's what happens too. When you share a whole bunch of images and you're like, here's 5 that look the same, and here's 5 that look the same, and here's 4 that look the same, they're going to pick maybe one from each of those. And so you start to like get them in the habit of looking at all these images and like knocking all but one. Where if there's all variety, they look at them and they're just like, oh my gosh, I want them all. How do I get them all?
Actually, that's a really big pet peeve of mine, no pun intended, is that if you are giving your client 5, 6, 7, whatever, of a very similar image, what you are asking them to do is your job. Your job is to narrow them down and show them the best of the best. Now, I take, if I'm doing a headshot of a bride, yeah, for sure, I take 20 of that shot, slightly different angles. I'm picking one. Maybe two if there's one with a full smile and one looking down or something of that nature. But there has to be something that's different about them, because if I show her similar ones, I am giving her my job, which could end up leading to decision fatigue.
Before they get to the point of actually what they want to order.
Exactly. And that's not what you want. So I would, really seriously, when I hear wedding photographers delivering thousands of images, I'm like, why would you do that to a client? That does not serve them. You need to deliver unique images with occasional variety, of course, like I just described, but not of the same image. No, you narrow it down. That's your job. That's what they're paying you for, is service.
100%. And, for me, for pets, I tend to show clients like a closed mouth and an open mouth, like if there's totally different expressions, because I used to, way back in the day, I'd ask my clients, do you prefer your dog with an open mouth or closed mouth? Well, they give me an answer, but they haven't had their dog photographed before. So they might have a preference for real life, but they have no idea what they're actually going to like in their photos until they see them.
Right.
So I do show variety in that way. So it might be the same other than that little expression. But I'm not going to show them two with the same like mouth open, happy grin.
No, delete one. Just pick the best. Okay. But if we have a new photographer who's starting out, or maybe even some of them are not new and they've been doing it for a while, but they still don't feel ready. When will I feel ready? What is your advice that you give them?
Well, there's a couple different ways. Like if you've been doing it for a while and people are like, man, you're ready. Just go. You just need to start getting some money, start accepting some money, and then something will shift in your brain. And you're like, oh, this isn't as scary and terrible and awful as I realized. And I am allowed to actually earn some money doing something that I like, because I think there's a lot of people that society, parents, school, whatever, have drilled into our subconscious that it's not right, or that we shouldn't be making money doing something that we love, that should just be like a hobby.
Right. Or that you should give it away. If you love it so much, you should.
That it's selfish to get paid for something that you love.
Right. And
which I say, yes.
I disagree strongly with that. You can get paid for it, of course. And if you're asking the question, am I ready to charge? I can almost unequivocally tell you that the answer to that question is yes, you are ready, because you're asking the question. The fact that you're asking the question tells me you enjoy it. You've been doing it, whether that's a couple of weeks or a couple of years. You have fun. You want to offer your services, or someone has asked you. So if you've ever asked that question, am I ready to start charging? Just the natural answer to that, honestly, is yes, just by the fact that you're asking the question.
Right. That goes along with if you're asking yourself, oh man, I don't want to be seen as a fraud, or I feel like I'm a fraud or imposter. A fraud would not actually be asking that question. So by the fact that you're asking that question, you answered the question for yourself.
Right. No. You are not. You know what I always say about that fraud and imposter syndrome? I'm like, that's only a problem if you're trying to pretend like you're a neurosurgeon.
Right.
What do you mean you think you're a fraud because you want to photograph dogs? Like, what even harmed? What? That doesn't even make sense to me. But that's, by the way, I don't think it's their fault. I think this is the ego at the subconscious level trying to protect us, keep us safe, all of those things that you just question everything. But you're ready. I personally think that you're ready. I mean, I was going to say when you buy the camera, but when you have a camera, because I was going to say when you buy a good camera, but that's not true, because I photographed my first wedding with a point and shoot. So I don't even know that that's a requirement. I mean, do you have minimum requirements?
So yes and no. I feel that if you are picking up your phone camera and you get a good picture of a dog and someone's like, hey, can I give you $20 for that? Can I give you a dinner gift card? The answer is, oh, thank you. That I think a lot of people will just, no. Like, if somebody wants to pay you, let them pay you.
Amen.
And, I don't want anyone to misconstrue what we're saying here either about like, oh, whatever, we don't care how much your work sucks. Just go out and, run a business. No, of course, we always want to be improving our craft. I'm still improving my craft. It's always this journey. And if it helps you feel more secure in charging, to know that you're at, basically I call it a minimum viable product or a minimum viable, like image quality. And that is that it has correct exposure, meaning there's not locked up blacks or blown out highlights in important parts of the image, that the white balance is correct. And maybe, it's in focus and you have a little bit of expression as a bonus. Like if you have those 4 things, you 100% are ready to charge.
That's right.
And if you aren't sure, like Heather said, if you're asking, you're likely ready. But if you want that extra confidence builder, somebody to give you that approval letter that says, here's your approval from the police of the photography world, you're allowed to go charge now. And then ask a professional that's been doing this, ask in a group like the Flourish Academy or the Hair of the Dog Academy. And we'll tell you, we'll 100% tell you, oh, need to work on your exposure, or this is out of focus. So focus, exposure, white balance, bonus points for expression. That's really all you need. But Heather, I got to tell you, I just got back from teaching Hound Vision with Kaylee and Sam from Dog Breath Photography in Breckenridge, Colorado. Was supposed to be in Tahoe, but Tahoe's going to be in March now because of the whole fire situation. But anyway, hairofthedogacademy.com/houndvision if you want to get on the wait list for our Tahoe March retreats. Regardless. Now I totally even forget what I was talking about. I remember. Yeah. I remember. Okay. So at Hound Vision, Kaylee and I were sharing our early work and kind of our evolution of our style. And I got to tell you, well, first of all, I couldn't share work from my first year because I lost it. Not from a hard drive failure, but just from a not having proper file systems in place. And then changing computers and, it was on some other computer. It never made the jump to a new computer. So those are gone. But I shared some of my work from 2011, which is after I was in business for an entire year. And they were not properly exposed, did not have proper white balance, had no light in the eyes, had very little expression.
That's hilarious.
They were somewhat in focus though, so I had that.
Right. So why was that? Do you think you were just unaware?
Yeah, I thought they were great.
Right. Yeah, back then you were like, wow, look what I produced.
Right, because it was better than what I used to do. So I was improving, and quite frankly, it was likely better than what the client could do on their own.
Right.
Certainly, it's not going to be winning any awards or making me feel good about myself in my current day and age.
But what were you charging?
Oh, I was still averaging $1,000 a session.
Okay,
at least.
You were a champion right out of the gate, because back in the day when I started, it was like $50.
I mean, I did have a couple months where I was charging like $200 for a whole session, like $175, I think it was.
Right.
You get all the stuff.
Right.
And, I had some mini sessions for $95. You get all the digitals. But I quickly, that was only a couple months because that was summer of 2010, spring, summer of 2010. Then I was pregnant. I had my son Colin in August, and I kind of took the fall, winter off. And then that following January, that January? It might have been the January before. I can't remember. Early on, I went to Imaging USA, PPA's big conference, and really got smacked in the face by how I should actually be pricing my work, and given lots of different ideas, and basically shown the world of this boutique photography business. So I realized I had to change my ways. So I really am thankful for that, because going to that conference set me up in a way that allowed me to set up my business profitably from the early stages, even though my work was not yet what I consider technically sound.
Right. That's a good way to put it. But based on your own criteria, the criteria that you have now, you would have not been ready to charge. Right.
But who's to say you're not? Because if someone's willing to pay you, it's the same thing as when we sold our house in Florida. This was 2005. So remember, it's the lead up to the mortgage crisis. So, Florida houses were hot. Yeah. We bought that house for like $195, and then we ended up selling it about a year and a half, 2 years later. Forget the exact numbers. I think, we had sold it for 343 was what we were under contract for, but the appraisal came back at like 320. So we ended up settling in the middle, and I was like, no, time out. What is this appraisal nonsense? The people that were buying the house are putting like $90,000 down. So it wasn't a part of the bank not wanting to write a loan for more than 80% of the mortgage, because they weren't. So it's like, well, they're willing to pay that. So that's what my house is worth, not what the appraiser says my house is
Agreed.
worth.
Yes, the market.
Yeah.
The market dictates that.
So if you have someone willing to pay you, you're ready to charge.
Yeah, there it is. If somebody wants to give you money, just let them. How about that? Start there. You may never feel, I mean, I really do want people to ask themselves, what would it take? When would you feel ready? Like, what boxes would you have to check off? And is that really possible? Is it feasible to say I can check all of those boxes? Probably not. So why not start charging now at a rate that you feel comfortable with and then refine as you grow and learn? That's exactly what we both did.
100%.
But my work, I'm sure, was not as good as yours. It was terrible.
We should both share some of our old work.
Yeah.
With this, we can't do it on the podcast because it's audio, so we're off the hook.
Maybe nobody needs to see.
In our groups, we will.
Right.
But yeah, what you were saying, like, what needs to happen? What needs to be checked off? And I think as you start to answer that, well, if you start to actually answer it and put it into tangible pieces, it might become clear that you're like, I don't know. I think I'm making this up, because I think what happens is that our ego, our subconscious, is saying, oh, you need to check all these boxes, but I'm not even going to tell you what the exact boxes are. I'm just going to make you feel like there's 8,000 boxes over here that you haven't checked to keep you safe. Because if you start putting yourself out there and nobody books right away, what's that going to mean about you? What's that mean about your work? What's that mean about the viability of pursuing this photography thing?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. It's just your ego trying to keep you safe. So the boxes are imaginary. So guess what? There are none. There are no boxes you have to check if somebody wants to give you money or if you want to charge, because the truth is you put money into that camera. So you spent money to have a piece of equipment that the person in front of you does not own, nor do they know how to operate. And even if you only know how to put it in auto and press the button, you still know more than they do. You know, it doesn't take much to be an expert. You just need to know more than the person in front of you. So if that's the case and they want to pay you, let them. You can charge because you spent however much on your camera, maybe your education. And even if your work isn't there quite yet, it's really, to some degree, Nicole, it's not up to you. It's up to the market or the potential client or the person that wants to pay you. And if they want to pay you and you put it out there and you can charge, then you can accept money, because like you said earlier, there are no photography police. Nobody's going to come knocking on your door saying you didn't check the 8,000 imaginary boxes, because the truth is you're making crap up in your head about what needs to happen. When will I be ready? You're ready right now. Why not right now? And I don't think that you could give me a good excuse for that. I really don't.
Oh, let's try it. If you guys have a good excuse, DM us.
Let me hear it.
Send it to Flourish Academy on Instagram or Hair Dog
Send
Academy.
It straight to Heather, and she'll tell you. I mean,
I want your excuses.
Right. I would love it, because I shot my first wedding with a point and shoot camera and I was terrible. And I would say probably 90% of the reception images were blurry because I didn't know what I was doing. But this person wanted to hire me for, now I will say I was very honest early on because I was shooting weddings. I want to say something here, and I don't want you to take my advice. I don't want you to listen to me, but I want you to hear me. I would say to my brides, these very early people who just knew me, maybe as a friend or friend of a friend, and said, would you photograph my wedding? And I said, I am not a professional. I do not know what I'm doing. I could totally screw up your wedding. Are you okay with that? And if they said yes, then I'd say, I'm your girl. And I'd photograph their wedding. A couple of those were free. And a couple of those were $500, really inexpensive. But I was very, very clear up front because it was a wedding. If you're new and you want to say to people, I'm building my portfolio, so I'm offering this special pricing, I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say, because you're setting appropriate expectations. That's what I did. I set appropriate expectations. And those early clients of mine loved their photos. They full well know that I delivered things not in focus. I mean, it's obvious, right? They're completely
Maybe they
blurred.
needed their eyes checked to the glass. Prescription changed.
They just didn't care. I don't think they cared. You know, in one case, the bride said to me, well, we weren't going to hire a photographer, so your photos will be better than nothing.
Oh,
I
well, that's
said,
true.
oh, fair. I can meet that expectation because, she didn't expect much from me. And I was very thankful for that opportunity. So I wouldn't go around preaching to everyone, hey, I'm brand new and I have no clue what I'm doing. That's not what I'm suggesting. But you could be honest in saying that you are starting out and trying to build a portfolio. And that, that hopefully will set some reasonable expectations.
Yeah. And then once you build that portfolio and you set your website up, by going to your website, you're only a fraud if you're taking other people's images and putting it on your website and then saying, hey, these are my images and I'm going to give you something of this caliber. Okay, don't do that. That's very bad. But if you're taking those images you built during that portfolio session, putting it on your website, your potential clients are seeing the work that you're going to create. And if they're choosing to hire you, they are very excited about it. So at that point, you don't need to say anything about being new because you're sharing the type of work. And then the more you shoot, because Kaylee and I both noticed this back to Hound Vision, we were sharing the evolution of our style. The years that we both started shooting a lot more, quantum freaking leaps in the quality of our work. You guys, there is no excuse for that 10,000 hours of practice or 10,000 images, 10,000 something.
No, it's the rule of 10,000. Yeah. It's Malcolm Gladwell. 10,000 of hours or reps or whatever it is, 10,000 shoots, 10, whatever. That's definitely a real thing. So guess what? In order to shoot more, you have to charge so that you can get clients, so that you can shoot more, so that you can charge to shoot more. How about that?
Yep.
So you can't wait around. How can you get ready without taking photos?
Yeah. Well, and even you said that, you have to go out and charge to take photos, but I would venture to say you don't even have to find paying clients. If you want to hit that 10,000 images to really improve your skills quickly, you're going to make it a rule to shoot once a week, once a day, twice a month, whatever it is that fits into your schedule. You're going to make that happen whether you have paying clients or not, whether you're volunteering at a shelter, whether you're photographing your dog, when you're grabbing a friend's dog, when you're just meeting someone on the street and saying, hey, can I photograph your dog real quick? Here's my email. I'll send you some images. And, bonus if you're going to get paid for it.
Right.
But, but I don't think, because I think a lot of people, not a lot, some people might hear that and use that as an excuse of like, well, I don't have any paying clients, so I shouldn't work on my craft right now.
But how are you going to get better if you don't work on your craft? How is that going to happen? Exactly. I distinctly remember being 10 years into my wedding photography business, 10 years full time as a wedding photographer, finally feeling like I hit my stride. 10 years. And then I could charge whatever I wanted because I had the experience, I had the confidence. But how would I get to 10 years if I never started? If I didn't do the free fire hall wedding where everything was blurry, if I didn't do the backyard wedding for $500, even though it was terrible, I had to do it. You have to iterate to move forward. And in order to iterate to move forward, you have to start. So even if you just there's something really powerful in the exchange of money. Like something clicks in your mind, like, both exhilarate. Oh, have you ever heard this? Fear plus excitement equals exhilaration.
Oh, yes,
Fear plus excitement. Yeah, I love it. It's like a roller coaster. Something happens with an exchange of money, which I would classify as exhilaration. There's some fear, like, oh my, now there's some expectations and I have to produce, but it's also very exciting because it means, wow, this is possible. And if this was possible at, $50 or $500, then could I get to thousands of dollars? And the answer is yes, because people are doing it.
Yeah. You mentioned something before that I want to throw in a point too, that when you're shooting for free, like if you're just like making you're making that commitment. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm like, it's a C word. It begins with, anyway, You're making that commitment to improve your craft and shoot however often. And even if you end up taking free clients during that time, guess what? You are setting the stage for more paying clients in the future because these people know you. They like you now. They trust you. Even if the work you're creating for them is not going to be like, award-winning work that you're going to be proud of in 10 years, they still love it. And I have some clients that I photographed from the very beginning that stayed with me all the way along because they loved me and they enjoyed the experience and they enjoyed their images, even though the images they got 10 years later were significantly better
Right.
than the ones they got at the beginning. So you're laying the
That's
groundwork.
true. It's relationship building. Relationships are so important. I actually did an interview a couple of years ago with my very first Weddings by Heather bride. My very first. She came over to visit. It turns out she's my cousin. She married my cousin. So I guess what would that make her? Whatever. Cousin-in-law, whatever. And we did this interview and I said to her, name's Amanda. And I said, I am so nervous right now. She brought her photos, like physical prints. And she said, why? And I said,
I got to look at these.
Because I didn't know what I was doing. And I shot your wedding with a Canon PowerShot G3 point and shoot camera. I had no clue what I was doing. I mean, she knew that, it wasn't a secret. And I had done it for free. It was a backyard wedding at a park. It was really small and super casual. And she was looking at me almost strangely, Nicole. And she was like, Heather, we love our photos. And I'm like, and I said, thank you. I received that. But in my head, I'm thinking, how is that possible? But if she loves them, it really doesn't matter what I think about it, which is what I said a little bit ago. It's not up to you. It's not up to me to say how she feels about those photos. She loves them. They're her wedding. Okay, done.
Yeah. And by the very nature of photos, what those photos are doing are creating an emotional connection to a day. It's like an anchor point. So whether the photos are good or bad, I mean, you guys have got to have like random snapshots that you see, and it's not the best quality per se, but you're like, man, this takes me right back to my first dog in my front yard when I was 6, and you love it. So yeah, who are we to rob people of potentially having that by keeping our services to ourselves? You're being selfish.
That's it. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that so much. Say that again. You're being selfish because...
Who are we to rob the opportunity of creating this emotional connection to their special pet? If we keep it to ourselves, we're robbing them of that experience.
That is selfish. You're right.
So you're selfish.
So you're selfish. You know what? I've asked people before, I said, do you consider yourself selfish? And of course they say no. And I said, no, I don't think you're selfish either. So why are you acting that way? Why are you? Because the selfish part is you're trying to protect your ego and keep yourself safe. That's the selfish part. You don't like, it's not conscious that you're doing this. So when are you ready to charge?
Now.
I don't see why we delay right now. You're ready right now, whether you emotionally feel that or not. Could you just step into it? What is the worst that could happen?
Right. And, if you're not ready to charge, like thousands of dollars for a session, and you go through the profitability of pricing worksheets, you're like, oh my gosh, this makes me want to actually vomit in my mouth a little bit. It's okay to start lower, to get some experience, to get some practice of feeling that energetic exchange of money, so that then you can start to raise your prices. The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. Second best time is now. The best time to start charging in your photography business was when you started, but the second best time is now.
Is right now.
And and start wherever you feel comfortable and confident, and certainly ask for some help to make sure you're not losing money and you're profitable. You want to make sure that your pricing at least covers any costs that you have, especially hard costs. But it's something that you can start and then raise it as you become more confident.
Right. And I would argue you need to push yourself a little bit past your comfort zone. So for instance, if somebody comes to me and says, okay, I think I can do this. Okay, why not? Why couldn't you say $100 for 10 files, just like somewhere to start? If somebody said that to me, I'd say, okay, can you make it 150? Like I wanted, whatever you're thinking, just push it a little bit more. I don't want to push somebody so far outside of their comfort zone that they don't act. But I want to push them a little bit past what they might be thinking. And then you just I was talking to a photographer the other day and she's like, well, I can't raise my prices yet. And I was like, I'm sorry. What do you mean you can't raise your prices? And she's like, well, everything I've read and seen, it tells me to raise my prices once a year. And I'm like, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think it's nothing. I don't think it's anything to do with time. It's not about time. You're probably more ready to rate. Oh, which reminds me, I kind of want to get into some of this pricing discussion, but this might not be the place for it, because I do have a list of really common mistakes I see photographers making in the beginning regarding their pricing. Maybe we could talk about that another time.
Oh yeah, we're going to do another podcast on that 100%.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So,
Okay,
stay
so we don't
tuned,
need
everybody.
to get into it. Yeah, we don't need to get into it today.
Yeah.
But the point is, could you start small with something you're comfortable with, push yourself a little bit? And what if you did this? What if you said, okay, I'll do 5 people for $150 and 10 files. And then I'll check in with myself. How did that go? How do I feel? Could I raise that to 175, 200, 225? Could I do 5 more people at that price so that you're constantly in motion and moving forward based on the experience you're getting? So this is not willy-nilly. I'm not just making this up. This is based on, I just did 5 sessions and I learned a lot of new things, and I did 5 more. Now I have 10. That's more experience. And then it just compounds upon itself.
I agree 100%. And I think the other thing that people wait for, they believe that you should only raise prices once a year. They believe that you need to let your whole list know that you're raising prices. No, you can just raise your prices. And I think the other big one is people feel like they have to wait until they're so busy that like the demand has pushed them to raise their prices.
Oh, right.
Where,
And
yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't know about weddings, but at least for portrait photography, I have found that there is this whole big no man's zone. There's a market for the super cheap, like when we're starting off and we're like, okay, yeah, I'll just do the whole session for $200. And there's a market for multi-$1,000 beautiful high-end stuff. But if you're playing in that like $500 to $1,000 sandbox, I think it's really, really hard because you're too expensive for the people that are looking for cheap. And you're too inexpensive for the people that are looking for quality.
Right.
And if you're raising your prices and you're like, you want to go from that all-inclusive, $250 for a session to a boutique experience with $1,000 plus, totally different clients. So it doesn't matter if you're booked till the cows come home. Those clients aren't necessarily, a few might. Most of them are not going to follow you up to that new pricing. So you just have to market your business in a new way and find those new clients, which they're out there in every market.
You can find them in every market. And don't tell me. I love when people say, Heather, but you don't understand. You don't know my market. My market, they just won't pay. And it's, it's socioeconomically depressed and you haven't seen it. You don't understand. To which I respond, I would love to see that degree in micro or macroeconomics that you have or the studies that you've done. You are making that up in your head.
Right.
You have no clue. That's just a way to feel better about it. They are out there. Do you remember when you and I were in West Virginia recently and we were driving down this road and it was not the fanciest of areas. And I said, you know what? There's a market here. You just have to find it. You would just have to find where the market is.
Yeah, well, there is her name's escaping me, but she was a really great senior photographer, high school senior photographer in the middle of West Virginia in a very depressed town that like the coal plant had closed up. Like there was nothing economically going on in that town. And she still ran a very profitable high school senior business. Yeah, maybe she drew on some towns that were further away. Maybe she drew on a city that was a little bit further away, but she found a way to make it work. And the same thing I always, bring back to Ben Shirk, who's one of my photography idols. He does amazing work. He doesn't even have a red light. Maybe there's one red light. I don't think there is in his little town in Iowa. And he just had, he got a $35,000 sale, Heather, from people that like fly in because his work is so stinking incredible.
Are you serious? I didn't even know that was possible.
100% serious. It's incredible. So I don't want anyone to ever say my market won't support it.
My market, you don't understand.
Expand your market.
Right, expand your market. Where I live and where I choose to photograph are two different things.
Yeah.
I don't live in my market. My market, which is sad. I would love to have weddings in my area, but I don't because it's not where my market is. And if I do, Nicole, if I happen to get a wedding locally, it is like the celebration of the year. I'm so happy. Like I'm local. But I knew that based on where we selected to build our home. I knew that I was not in my market, but I know that there's a market out there. I just have to drive to find it.
Right. And you still, I can hear somebody saying, but I don't want to drive 2 hours. Well, you can become so desired that they will drive to you.
There it is.
Or you can also build your business in a way that still will be applicable to your market in a way that can be profitable.
That's right.
So no two photography businesses need to look alike. And no one says that you have to have multi-$1,000 averages. You can run a super profitable, more volume, lower price business. It really just depends on how you want to build your business, how much you want to work, how you want to schedule your days, and just all of those things. It's completely customizable.
It is. That reminds me, I was talking to a wedding photographer in my town recently. Maybe this is a couple months ago. And I said, how many weddings a year do you have? And it was like over 100. And I was like, okay, hold on. Okay. I said, what? Stop. I have
There's only 52 weeks a year still, right?
And okay. I have photographed 30 weddings in 1 year and wanted to die. That is a lot of weddings. Well, he's not just one person. He has a studio. Okay. He has associate photographers. And the pricing is a little bit lower than mine, but they're volume based.
Right.
So they are very successful. They do very well based on volume. It just depends on what fits your season of life, your business by design. You set it up however you'd like to, whether that's volume or boutique. There's no right or wrong.
Yep. And we can help you do that inside here at the Dog Academy or Elevate or the Flourish Academy. So come join us.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, Heather, this has been so good. I hope that this conversation has encouraged you guys to rethink about, what needs to happen before you start charging, and hopefully give you a little bit of confidence to go out and start doing it. If this is something that you want to do, like if you have listened to this whole entire podcast, now 40 some minutes into it, then there's something in you likely that wants to pursue this. So why not do that? Remember, if you don't, you're being selfish.
And it's not a matter.
You're keeping it to yourself.
Right. That's true. It's not a matter of being ready. It's a matter of being committed or excited to pursue your passion for photography.
Absolutely. So just get started. No better time to start than now.
That's right.
Anyway, we would love to know how this impacted you. Feel free to shoot us a DM on Instagram, Hair of the Dog Academy, or Flourish Academy for Heather, and let us know. And if you loved this episode, would love a review on iTunes. So please go ahead and leave that. And in the meantime, Heather, it won't be long till we see you back on the Hair of the Dog podcast again. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast episode, go ahead and take a screenshot of this episode on your phone and post it up there on your Instagram stories, and be sure to tag us at Hair of the Dog Academy. And we would just love to see how you're listening. And full disclosure, sometimes we just like to give away a little pet photographer swag in the form of Hair of the Dog t-shirts and sweatshirts. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and share that screenshot of this episode, and don't forget to tag us at Hair of the Dog Academy. And while you're there, maybe you want to jump on over to our account and see what we're up to on the gram. Would love to connect with you. Thanks for listening to the Hair of the Dog podcast. This was episode number 105. If you want to check out the show notes for access to any of the links that we shared in the episode, simply go to www.hairofthedogacademy.com/105.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Hair of the Dog podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to leave a review. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming episodes. One last thing, if you are ready to dive into more resources, head over to our website at www.hairofthedogacademy.com. Thanks for being a part of this pet photography community.